I know this is a music channel, and so this microphone review is sort of pushing the bounds of what an acceptable review would be for this channel, but I'm figuring since it's a microphone, it still qualifies as something I can get away with on this channel, and therefore we're going to get away with it. Today we're going to be talking about the ubiquitous, the legendary Sennheiser 416 shotgun microphone. Let's get into it. So this is going to be kind of a fun one for me, as I said before, because this is a very professional interface right here. You and me talking like this, right? Good audio. We got the nice little out of focus background going on. Very nice, you know. This right here, this is not the most professional thing in the world. This is a little bit of, you haven't seen this angle before, have you? So I have my little lights set up. This is not a teleprompter. This is just notes for this particular video. But this is the microphone, man. This is what I use every video when I'm talking. If you're considering using this for a talking head setup, what you're listening to at this moment is actually this Sennheiser run directly through an SSL2 $100 interface, and then the outputs of the SSL2, the 1/4-inch outputs that normally would go to monitors, are then summed into a stereo 1/8 plug, and that's going directly into the camera. And so I'm going to show this processed and unprocessed. Of course, there will be little markers, same as we do with bass videos, but what you're listening to at this moment is this microphone straight into this camera, which is pretty crazy, right? When I take this card off of this camera and put it into Final Cut, this is the sound that I have from the jump. That's huge. I got really tired of recording in Ableton and then syncing things up, which, by the way, I'm doing today for you because I care about you. We're also going to A/B it for all of you audiophiles out there that want to hear it with the computer. Fair enough, and I understand that. But I want to show the way that I normally do this first, just to tell you, sometimes I think we get so caught up chasing perfection, we sort of ignore the things that can make content more convenient. And this is one of those ones that I am happy to compromise on, man. As long as I don't need an extra little Zoom recorder here, as long as I don't need to sync things and post like that, I love it. Which is ironic because I do multicam clips anyways. None of this matters. Point is, this is running straight into camera. But what does it sound like going straight into computer? I'm glad you asked. Here we go. Right now, movie magic, straight into computer. Now keep in mind, I have no way of gain matching these, right? Like they're different interfaces, so it's not like I can just keep them at the same thing. And I'll say that I have a Focusrite, 2nd gen Focusrite, which by the way, any of my videos, I'm running through like a $300 2nd generation 18i20 Focusrite. It's not a nice preamp set, okay? Anybody telling you that you need like ridiculous preamps just to do voiceover stuff, grain of salt. You can get a lot done with plugins, and honestly, garbage in, garbage out. If you get a good sound on a microphone going in, I think that matters kind of a hell of a lot more than the pre's, but that's sort of a hot take. I might even cut that. I don't know if I believe that. Sometimes I just say things and I see where it ends up. But right now, you're listening to the sound of the Sennheiser. I'm at exactly the same place as before. This is probably about a 7 out of 10 on this preamp just because it was a little bit quieter. And then on the SSL, I run it halfway up. Let's do another video on the actual talking head setup because I am passionate about it and I could rant about it. Today is not about that. Today, audiophiles, now that we have this hooked into the computer, is about the MKH 416, but today is also a very special day for me, and I'll tell you why. Normally, I am confined to having this just out of frame. If I wanted to talk into a microphone on camera, I would use my favorite microphone of all time, which is the SM7B. If you can only have one microphone, a one and done, the SM7B is the way to go, especially if you plan on using it for vocal recording as well in a musical context. If you're just doing voiceover, MKH 416, strong contender. If you're doing film work where you need a lot of rejection from sound sources around you, the MKH 416 is a vastly superior option just because of its excellent rejection and the fact that you can put it out of frame and it can get pretty good sound kind of far away. Whereas an SM7B, you really do kind of want to be eating that microphone a little bit more. So if you do music as well as voiceover, I would say get the SM7B. However, just for voiceover, this thing is amazing. Normally I have to leave this thing slightly out of frame, but today we're doing a review on this microphone. And so I'm assuming that you've gotten enough of me talking with it off the screen. So let's get to the meat and potatoes, what's actually exciting for me of this review, which is me getting to put this microphone into sort of a position that you'd use it more for voiceover. Yeah, buddy, now we're cooking with gas. Look at this, that's fantastic. I gotta look behind me and make sure it's not clipping. Something, by the way, I don't have to do when I run it into the Sony. Another strong pro for the Sony direct into camera trick. Anyway, yeah, it's sausagey. It's fatter for sure. It's a fatter waveform, but that's what we want. God only knows what I entitled the first half of this video, probably just ranting in general about this microphone, but now we're gonna get to the meat and potatoes, which is to say, we are going to talk about the MKH 416. Designed by Manfred Hibbing and released in 1975, the MKH 416 was Sennheiser's first phantom-powered microphone. Before this, any powered microphones they had actually been AB powered. And if you're wondering what that is, you're going to go right up here to the search box and you're going to type that in on YouTube so that somebody that's qualified can explain it to you, because I cannot. The MKH 416 quickly gained prominence within Hollywood within the late 70s, and by the 80s, everybody was using it everywhere because it's known to just be incredibly rugged. It also has properties that make it pretty much humidity resistant, which is kind of rare for microphones, meaning it's really, really good in the field. It can take a beating out in real world environments, which is imperative for good gear, especially in a filming context. The reason that MKH 416s are so prevalent within the YouTube space is, I believe, because of this one video that MKBHD made a couple years ago, running some really nice set of separate preamps. He was not running straight to camera the way that I am, but he was running a MKH 416 to that, and it was underslung in a setup. And I remember thinking, that's a really, really good setup, like a really clean setup. As soon as he put out that video, a bunch of other creators started using that microphone as well. And I think he was the reason that it became so prevalent within the YouTube community. Because before this, it had been sort of more of a, film and TV mic. And then all of a sudden it became the standard for YouTube as well. So when I actually do run this microphone, when I'm doing talking head videos, I either have it underslung or I have it overslung. Which is to say just out of frame this way. And if you want to hear some of these in other videos on my channel, the bass ones, generally it's overslung because I'm holding the bass. So I have to have a lower camera angle, meaning I can't undersling the microphone. But if you're just seeing me doing a talking head to intro a synth or a Nord video, it is definitely underslung, and I'm using this particular stand from Amazon.com and this little tray, which holds this little interface and a whole bunch of cables that I don't remember right now. So let me connect back to the camera itself. We are back running into the camera. I can see it's hitting somewhere around -12, maybe even a little bit. Actually, it's hitting even hotter today, which is pretty wild. I never have this microphone this close to my mouth, so it should be getting a pretty good proximity effect. Now, I should say this. I have never once compared straight to computer audio to direct to camera audio as it relates to recording. So I am really interested to see the difference. So something I thought we could do, and it's not really like a mic shootout, but I recommended the SM7B before. So if I'm going to talk a big game with the SM7B, I'm going to record the same clip with a couple different microphones, just so you can get a feel for how it sounds. I'm going to run it all straight into the computer because I know people will get mad if I do the comparison straight into camera, but it would help me more if it was straight into camera, but I'm not going to do that. We're not going to connect it straight into the camera. This is going to be running to a computer and I'm syncing it in post. We're going to do the same passage on the MKH 416 and then on the SM7B, the best microphone ever made, and then on my trusty $100 SM58 microphone that I recorded my first 2 records on. I love this microphone, and these are great mics. These are unbelievable mics. You don't mind feeling like a stand-up comedian? There's nothing wrong with this. We're going to try all 3 of those. I am going to use a cloud lifter on the SM7B. I am not going to use it on the other 2 because this one has enough gain and this one just doesn't generally use the cloud lifter. Don't know why, just doesn't. Side note, this is my girlfriend's cloud lifter. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? She's got all these little stickers on it and whatnot. I need a little bit more whimsy in my life, man, honestly. Nothing I do is whimsical. All I wear is black. It's a side note. That's an aside. Here we go. So we're going to be reading a passage from an article entitled "The MKH 416 Shotgun Microphone is 50" from Sennheiser.com. Another reason for the success of the MKH 416 is in its excellent directivity, which is the result of the acoustic interference principle on which it operates. The actual microphone capsule is combined with a so-called interference tube in front of it. This tube has regularly arranged slots which are covered with fabric that has a certain acoustic impedance and prevents reflections and standing waves inside the tube. If sound arrives directly from the front, the interference tube has no effect at all. But when sound enters the tube from the sides, it passes through different holes. This results in different path lengths to the transducer and thus different time delays. Another reason for the success of the MKH 416 is in its excellent directivity, which is the result of the acoustic interference principle on which it operates. The actual microphone capsule is combined with a so-called interference tube in front of it. This tube has regularly arranged slots which are covered with fabric that has a certain acoustic impedance and prevents reflections and standing waves inside the tube. If sound arrives directly from the front, the interference tube has no effect at all. But when sound enters the tube from the sides, it passes through different holes. This results in different path lengths to the transducer and thus different time delays. Another reason for the success of the MKH 416 is in its excellent directivity, which is a result of the acoustic interference principle on which it operates. The actual microphone capsule is combined with a so-called interference tube in front of it. This tube has regularly arranged slots which are covered with fabric that has a certain acoustic impedance and prevents reflections and standing waves inside the tube. If sound arrives directly from the front, the interference tube has no effect at all, but when sound enters the tube from the sides, it passes through different holes. This results in different path lengths to the transducer and thus different time delays. Another reason for the success of the MKH 416 is in its excellent directivity, which is the result of the acoustic interference principle on which it operates. The actual microphone capsule is combined with a so-called interference tube in front of it. This tube has regularly arranged slots which are covered with fabric that has a certain acoustic impedance and prevents reflections and standing waves inside the tube. If sound arrives directly from the front, the interference tube has no effect at all. But when sound enters the tube from the sides, it passes through different holes. This results in different path lengths to the transducer and thus different time delays. Another reason for the success of the MKH 416 is in its excellent directivity, which is the result of the acoustic interference principle on which it operates. Another reason for the success of the MKH 416 is in its excellent directivity, which is the result of the acoustic interference principle on which it operates. Another reason for the success of the MKH 416 is in its excellent directivity, which is a result of the acoustic interference principle on which it operates. Another reason for the success of the MKH 416 is in its excellent directivity, which is the result of the acoustic interference principle on which it operates. This tube has regularly arranged slots which are covered with fabric that has a certain acoustic impedance and prevents reflections and standing waves inside the tube. This tube has regularly arranged slots which are covered with fabric that has a certain acoustic impedance and prevents reflections and standing waves inside the tube. This tube has regularly arranged slots which are covered with fabric that has a certain acoustic impedance and prevents reflections and standing waves inside the tube. This tube has regularly arranged slots which are covered with fabric that has a certain acoustic impedance and prevents reflections and standing waves inside the tube. Something I learned early on, is kind of odd about me, is that I like my microphones dynamic. I think you really have two options in the world of voiceover, and it's this. You can either go condenser, which is very realistic, and if you have a great voice, God bless you. Do a condenser. Howard Stern uses Neumann's for a reason. He's got $1 million voice, and he sounds like it. But if you have more of a honky kind of voice, like I do, it actually makes more sense to go a different route. And the route that I prefer is dynamic. Hi, Editor Andre here. You might be asking, well, the MKH 416 is a condenser microphone, so why do you use that as your main microphone? It's almost a condenser microphone that acts like a dynamic. It sounds more like a dynamic to me than a condenser. And to illustrate this point, I have this very nice Warm Audio 47 that is on my desk. This is what I think of when I think of a condenser microphone sound. It's extremely clear, like I'm reading an audiobook or narrating for NPR. This is not the sound that I generally gravitate towards. I prefer my voice on things that are less clear, more cartoonish, bigger, more compressed sounding, for lack of a better term, cartoon. Cartoon is the word. So we'll get back to the video, but I did just want to clarify that. I think the MKH 416 sounds more dynamic, which is to say, in a way, more forgiving than something like a TLM 103 or a 47 or an 87 or any of these other traditional shock mount kind of guys. These guys are going to sound very, very crisp and clean and also have terrible rejection. This will pick up footprints from my neighbor's house if I'm not careful. So all that out of the way, let's get back to the video. There's a reason these are the ubiquitous podcast microphones. And I really, really love this mic. We'll do a separate thing on this, but I'm going to move back to the 416 because I don't want to hog it with this, but I do, God, honorable mention to this. However, keep in mind, I'm going to talk into this at the same place that I put this microphone out of frame. In fact, we'll do it right now. Here's the shortcoming of the SM7B. If I have the SM7B down here at a similar gain to what I was using with it towards my face, which by the way is pretty decently hot, probably 5, 6 out of 10 on the preamp, it is just not enough gain. Already on the SM7B, the capsule is actually pretty far down, and this helps with plosives. You're not going to get nearly the same number of plosives on an SM7B that you would get on, let's say, even a SM58, even with the windscreen involved, just because the capsule's right there. The capsule's further down inside of this thing. It's a different thing entirely. Let's move back to the 416. So that's a pretty good representation of all these different microphones. You know, something I should have said at the top is I'm just going to kind of be talking into these a lot because that's really what I'm looking for when I'm looking for an MKH 416 review. I'm just looking for somebody to talk into this. You know what? We're getting it back in my face again. That's the MKH 416. It's a microphone that I love dearly, and it's one that, yes, it's extremely expensive for what it is, but you will buy this once and you will have it forever. This is not going to like burn out. This is not going to like go bad. And you can sell it for what you bought it for. Why? Because it's a legendary microphone. They use this thing on Jaws, man. It's not going anywhere. Sure, the Shootout is out there. Sure, there are alternatives. Sure, things have been modernized. There are cheaper alternatives now, too. Sennheiser themselves has come out with a pretty solid lower-end budget line of microphones to rival the MKH 416. But in my opinion, they don't have one defining characteristic of this microphone. They are not this microphone. And I've listened to shootouts. They're very good. They're very close. But it's almost like hearing a Behringer clone of a synth that you love. It's like, yeah, man, that's like 95% of the way there. But it's not 100% of the way there. And people are always going to be looking for that 100%. Yes, these are about $1,000 or about 800 used, but you'll have this forever. And if you want to sell it, you can get rid of it very easily. I should do one more comparison. I have come to learn, much like in my speech about dynamic microphones, where I prefer my voice with dynamic, I prefer my voice with the Windscreen On. And I had to learn this over many videos. If you watch some earlier videos of mine, I actually don't have the Windscreen On. I was running it a little bit hotter. Let me take this off and show you. This is what I mean. This is actually the microphone with the windscreen off. So I don't know how different this sounds, but to me, there's a clarity to this that is not necessarily what I'm looking for. I don't want like ultra pure, clear, high definition HD, whatever, but maybe this is what you're looking for. And honestly, if you are, this is where you can find it. Let me put this out of frame and show you what that sounds like. I should mention, I'm not adjusting gains when I'm putting it out of frame. So you probably would be bringing it up slightly or bringing it down slightly, but also when you bring it up, it kind of introduces more self noise in a microphone. So I think it is kind of a fair comparison to hear it at the same level, and proximity effect is a thing in the first place. So yeah, this is what it sounds like just out of frame. Who knows? Maybe this will convert me back. And again, this is even higher quality than the rest of my videos where I'm running it straight into camera, because this is running straight to my computer into Ableton. This is not running straight to camera. Straight to camera sounds like this. Oh, well, what do you know? Straight to camera. One more of these for the road. And then I guess this is where we sign off, because we've been doing this long enough. Keep in mind, no Windscreen On for this outro. This is just boomed out of frame. This is also baked into the video file. Very little editing. He lied, because this is 32 minutes exactly as I'm recording, and that's a nightmare to edit down, but I do it for you fine folks because I like you. I like you so much. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. I love it when people have things to say. It's been a really cool journey doing this with you guys, and I know this isn't really music related, but it is voiceover related, and I'm going to stop just short of doing camera reviews because God help me. I could do camera reviews. I love cameras so much, but yeah, I hope this is useful. Anything audio related, I love it. Comment down below if you have the MKH 416, if you have a microphone that you prefer to the MKH 416. I'm always interested in learning what other people are using. I know the Shootout is very good, if that's how you even pronounce it. And again, another plug for the SM7B. If you're looking at this thinking, should I get one microphone and be done, and I want to do music and I want to do voiceover, it's a no-brainer to me. You should get the SM7B. But if it needs to be out of frame, that's a different consideration. That's what this guy's for. Thank you so much, guys. Until next time, I'm Andre Bernier, Andre Bernier Music on YouTube and Instagram. See you in the next one.